All right, guys, we're going to be going over the Active Directory basics. Try hack me room here. Let's look at the intro here. I think Active Directory is probably one of the most important things to learn before you start hacking. So let's go ahead and get into this. Task 1, Microsoft Active Directory is the backbone of the corporate world. It simplifies the management of devices and users within a corporate environment. In this room, we'll take a deep dive into the central components of Active Directory. Room objectives. In this room, we will learn about Active Directory and will be familiar with the following topics: what Active Directory is, what an Active Directory domain is, what components go into an Active Directory domain, forest, domain and trust, and much more. Room prerequisites, general familiarity with Windows. Check the Windows Fundamentals module for more information on this. Okay. And then click question done, and we'll move over here. All right, Windows domain. Picture yourself administering a small business network with only 5 computers and 5 employees. In such a tiny network, you will probably be able to configure each computer separately without a problem. You will manually log into each computer, create a user for whomever will use them, and make specific configurations for each employee's accounts. If a user's computer stops working, you will probably go to their place and fix the computer on site. While this sounds like a very relaxing lifestyle, but suppose your business suddenly grows and now has 157 computers and 320 different users located across 4 different offices. Would you still be able to manage each computer as a separate entity, manually configure your policies for each of the users across the network, and provide on-site support for everyone? The answer is most likely no. To overcome these limitations, we'll use the Windows domain. Put simply, a Windows domain is a group of users and computers under the administration of a given business. The main idea behind a domain is to centralize the administration of common components of a Windows computer network into a single repository called an Active Directory. The server that runs the Active Directory service is known as the domain controller. So here you have a domain, tryhackme.com. You have the domain controller. I like to think of him as like the king server. And then within his realm, so within the domain, you'll have your computers, file servers, data servers, desktops, and workstations. The main advantage of having a configured Windows domain are centralized identity management. All users across the network can be configured from Active Directory with minimal effort. Managing security policies. You can configure security policies directly from Active Directory and apply them to users and computers across the network as needed. A real-world example. If this sounds a bit confusing, chances are that you have already interacted with a Windows domain at some point in your school, university, or work. In school university networks, you will often be provided with username and password that you can use on any of the computers available on your campus. Your credentials are valid for all machines because whenever you input them on a machine, it will forward the authentication process back to the Active Directory where your credentials will be checked. Thanks to Active Directory, your credentials don't need to exist on each computer and are available through the network. Active Directory is also the component that allows your school, university to restrict you from accessing the control panel on your school and university machines. Policies will usually be deployed throughout the network so that you don't have administrative privileges over those computers. Welcome to THM Inc. During this task, you'll assume the role of the new IT admin at THM Inc. As our first task, we will have been asked to review the current domain them.local and do some additional configurations. You will have the administrative credentials over a pre-configured domain controller to do tasks. Be sure to click the Start Machine button as you'll use the same machine for all tasks. This should open up a machine in your browser. Should you prefer to connect to it via RDP, you can use the following credentials. Note, when connecting via RDP, use them administrator as domain to specify you want to log in to the administrator on the domain. Since we will be connecting to the target machine via RDP, this is also a good time to start your attack box unless you're using your own machine. In the Windows domain, credentials are stored in a central repository called, that is called domain controller. No? Okay, Active Directory. Pretty sure it's Active Directory. Yeah, all right. The server in charge of running the Active Directory is called the domain controller. Had those backwards. All right. All right, looks good. Start the machine. All right, wait for that to start up. Okay, I chose to use the attack box. I never used the attack box. This is probably the only video where I've used the attack box and used their, in this case, it's the AD basic /v 1.2 Windows server here. You can do it from your VM like I usually do, but in this case, because we're not going to be doing a whole lot of exploitation and there's not going to be a need for me to use Linux, I'm not going to use my Linux computer. I'm just going to use this environment that they gave me here. Okay, so let's see what's asking us to do here. Okay, we've answered that, we started it, and let's go ahead and go through this. All right, task 3, Active Directory. The core of any Windows domain is the Active Directory Domain Service, ADDS. This service acts as a catalog that holds the information of all the objects that exist on your network. Amongst the many objects supported by AD, we have users, groups, machines, printers, shares, and many others. Let's look at some of them. Users. Users are one of the most common object types in Active Directory. Users are one of the objects known as security principals, meaning that they can be authenticated by the domain and can be assigned privileges over resources like files or printers. You could say that a security principal is an object that can act upon resources in the network. Users can be used to represent two types of entities. People, users will generally represent persons in your organization that need to access the network like employees. Services. You can also define users to be used by services like IIS or MySQL. Every single service requires a user to run, but service users are different from regular users as they will only have the privileges needed to run their specific service. Machines. Machines are any other type of object within Active Directory. For each computer that joins the Active Directory domain, a machine object will be created. Machines are also considered security principals and are assigned an account just as any regular user. This account has somewhat limited rights within the domain itself. The machine account themselves are local administrators on the assigned computer. They are generally not supposed to be accessed by anyone except the computer itself. As with any other account, if you have the password, you can use it to log in. Machine account passwords are automatically rotated out and are generally comprised of 120 random characters. Identifying machine accounts is relatively easy. They follow a specific naming scheme. The machine account name is the computer name followed by a $sign. For example, a machine named DC01 will have a machine account called DC01 Money. Security groups. If you are familiar with Windows, you will probably know that you can define user groups to assign access rights to files and other resources to entire groups instead of a single user. This allows for better management as you can add users to an existing group and they will automatically inherit all the group's privileges. Security groups are also considered security principals and therefore can be privileges over resources on the network. Groups can have both user and machines as members. If needed, groups can include other groups as well. Several groups are created by default in a domain that can be used to grant specific privileges to users. For example, here are some of the most important groups in a domain. Security group, domain admins. Users of this group have administrative privileges over the entire domain. By default, they can administer any computer on the domain, including the DCs. Server operators. Users in this group can administer domain controllers. They can't change any administrative group memberships. Backup operations. Users in this group are allowed to access files, ignoring their permissions. They are used to perform backups of data on computers. Account operators. Users in this group can create or modify other accounts in the domain. Domain users include all existing user accounts in the domain. Domain computers include all existing peers in the domain. Domain controllers include all existing DCs on the domain. You can obtain the list of default security groups from Microsoft documentation. Active Directory user and computers. To configure user groups or machines in Active Directory, you'll need to log into the domain controller and run Active Directory users and computers from the Start menu. This will open up a window where you can see the hierarchy of users, computers, and groups that exist in the domain. These objects are organized in organizational units, which are containers objects that allow you to classify users and machines. OUs are mainly used to define a set of users with similar policy requirements. The people in the sales department of an organization are likely to have a different set of policies applied than the people in IT. For example, keep in mind that a user can only be a part of a single OU at a time. Checking our computers, we can see that there is already an OU called them. With the child folders OUs for IT management, marketing, sales department, it is very typical to see the OU mimic the business structure as it allows for efficiently deploying baseline policies that apply to the entire department. Remember that while this would be the expected model most of the time, you can define OUs arbitrarily. Feel free to right-click them OU and create a new OU under it called students just for fun. All right, so we'll go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so I'm gonna type active. Oh, actually, it looks like they have it down here. Is that, that's not it. Yep, here it is. Active Directory, users and computers. Wait for this to open. Okay, and then here's the organization units. And we have IT management, marketing, research and development, sales, and then they asked us to create one for students. So we'll just say new, let's see, organizational unit, OU, name this one student. All right, oh, students with an S. All right, and do they require any settings? Nope. Okay. All right, cool. So we have students OU there. If you open any OU, you can see the users that they contain and perform simple tasks like creating, deleting, or modifying them as needed. You can also reset passwords if needed. Pretty useful for the help desk. Okay, so if we click here, you can see users here, user here. Looks like they have 3 IT people, 1 marketing person. Look at them. Okay, okay. They have 1 research development, 1 sale, actually 4 sales. All right, well, okay, looks good. Probably noticed already that there are other default containers apart from the ThinMOU. These containers are created by Windows automatically and contain the following. Built-in contains a default group available to any Windows host. Okay, built-in is here. All right, so we got all our default groups here. So we got our admin group, guest, etc. Computer, any machine joining the network will be put here by default. You can move them if needed. Okay, so here's all our computers that are connected to the domain at this time. And domain controllers, default OUs that contain DCs in your network. Here's the domain controllers, very useful for your help desk and you need to get access to one of them. You could usually just check which ones you have access to here. All right, users, default user groups that apply to domain-wide contexts. All right, users. Oh, here it is, okay. All right, so these are domain-wide contexts. Interesting. Domain admins, domain computers, okay, gotcha. Manage service account, hold accounts used by services in your Windows domain. Okay, we don't have any in there. Security group versus OU. You're probably wondering why we have both groups and OUs. While both are useful to clarify users and computers, their purpose and are entirely different. OUs are handy for applying policies to users and computers, which includes specific configurations that pertain to a set of users depending on their particular role in the enterprise. Remember, a user can only be a member of a single OU at a time, as it wouldn't make sense to try to apply two different sets of policies to a single user. Security groups, on the other hand, are used to grant permissions over resources. For example, you will use groups if you want to allow some users to access a shared folder or network printer. A user can be part of many groups, which is needed to grant access to multiple resources. Okay, so here you have your OUs. If you have a large enterprise, sometimes your OUs will be, let's say, you'd have one OU for like the East Coast people, one for the West Coast people, and then you'd be able to you know, distinguish between them that way. And then you may have a bunch of security groups. So by default, they really don't have much access. And then you put them in certain security groups and they'll have more access. And so you ensure least privilege. Which group normally administers all computers and resources on the domain? Right, so that'd be domain admins. We just took a look at that one a second ago. What would be the name of the machine account associated with a machine name? Okay, so let me look at domain admins so you can see that. It's gonna be users, domain admins. All right, what's the machine? Okay, let me go my computers here. We got Tom PC. Name of the machine account associated. Computer account. Interesting. All right, guys. So as I mentioned earlier, computer accounts usually have the computer name followed by the money sign. So in this case, Tom-PC money sign would be the answer. I was looking through the computers. I'm like, I don't see Tom here. And then I was like, oh yeah, forgot the money sign. Okay, gotcha. And then suppose our company creates a new department for quality assurance. What type of containers should use to group all quality assurance users so that the policies can be applied consistently to them? And as I mentioned, you should have them applied to organizational units. So we would apply one called quality assurance here. And so I put that in for the answer. All right, so it looks like we answered all of task 3. Let's go ahead and move on to task 4 here, managing users in AD. Wow, it does look like there's a few tasks here. We'll get to task 9. I really want to run through this. So your first task as the new domain administrator is to check the existing ADOUs and users, as some recent changes have happened to your business. You have been given the following organizational chart and are expected to make changes to the to match, deleting extra OU and users. First thing you should notice is that there is an additional department OU in your current AD configuration that does not appear in the chart. We've been told that it has been closed due to budget cuts and should be removed from the domain. If you try to right-click and delete the OU, you'll get the following error. No significant privileges. By default, OUs are protected against accidental deletion. To delete the OU, you need to enable the advanced features in the menu. All right, cool. So we have marketing, sales, IT support, server admin, domain admins. So it looks like we're missing research and development. All right, so that's probably the one we're going to be deleting. Oh, sorry, Bob. Looks like you lost your job. All right. By default, OUs are protected. Okay, so then great. Let's go ahead and practice that. Advanced features. Oh yeah, there we go. This will show you some additional containers and enable you to disable the accidental deletion protection. To do so, right-click the OU and go to the properties where you'll find a checkbox in the object table to disable it. All right, so let's go to here. Let's go to research and development. Let's right-click it, properties, and click on objects, and we could protect from accidental deletion. We could disable that. Be sure to uncheck the box and try deleting the OU again. You will be prompted to confirm that you want to delete the OU. As a result, any user groups or OUs under it will be deleted. After deleting the extra OU, you will notice for some of the departments, users and the AD will not match the ones in your organizational chart. Create and delete users as needed to match them. Delegation. One of the nice things you can do in AD is give specific users some control over some OUs. This is known as delegation and allows you to grant user-specific privileges to perform advanced tasks on the OU without needing a domain administrator to step in. One of the most common use cases for this is granting IT support the privileges to reset other low-privilege user passwords. According to our organizational charts, Philip is in charge of IT support, so we'll probably want to delegate the control of resetting passwords over the sales, marketing, and management OUs to him. For this, we will delegate control over the sales OU to Philip. To delegate control over an OU, you can right-click and select delegate control. All right, so we'll just put that away. Oh, it looks like they wanted us to do that. All right, so I'll just delete. Well, hold on, let me make sure I'm not deleting something I'm not to use here. Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess we'll just delete that then. Go to properties again. Objects. Okay. Apply. Okay. And then we'll delete this. All right, it's good. We'll go to IT support here, and we're giving Philip access. Oh, actually, hold on. Right click on cells, delegate control, gotcha. Click next, we're gonna add Philip here. Okay. And users groups. There we go. So I added Phil, and then I click check names, and it'll auto-populate his name. Click OK. Next. Reset user passwords, logins. Great. Okay. Click next a couple times, and now Philip should be able to reset password for any user in the sales department. Well, you'll probably want to repeat these steps to delegate the password resets of the marketing management department. We'll leave it here from the task. You are free to continue to configure the reset of the OUs if you desire. Now let's use Phil's account to try to reset Sophia's password. Here are Phil's credentials for you to log in via RDP. Okay. When connecting via RDP, use sim /Philip as username to specify you want to log in using the user Philip on the thim domain. While you may be tempted to go to the Active Directory user and computers to try and test Phil's new powers, he doesn't really have the privileges to open it. So you'll have to use other methods to do the password reset. In this case, we'll use PowerShell to do so. All right, so it looks like you're just resetting. Great. Since we don't want Sophia to keep on using a password, we know we can also force a password reset at the next login with the following command. Okay. When connecting via RDP, use your name to specify you want to log in using Sophia's, and then once you're logged in, you can get a flag. All right, so we'll just click over here, right click, change account. I'll just sign out. See if this works. Reconnect. It's going to sign me in automatically. All right. All right. Well, let me see if I can get this to work. Okay. Well, I tried to log in. I tried to open up PowerShell and put in this command because I didn't feel like logging up as Philip. Pretty sure the admin has the same privileges, but their PowerShell is pretty slow, I guess. So what I did, and let me just show you how I did this. I have an alternate RDP tool that I installed a while back. So the way you install is you sudo space app space install space remmina. And so when you install this application, it's pretty much like a GUI app. So all you need to do is input the IP address here, and then you can RDP into it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put this into the comment section of this video, so you could just like paste that in if you wanted to. And so once you're done installing it, the app will look something like this. So here's the app, and you just type in the name of the app. It's REM, and there it is right there. Click it to open it, and then when you click it to open it, it should look like this. Okay. There are other ways of RDPing into the computer. I've used other ways like through the terminal. However, I kind of prefer this one. It's easy. Don't even have to open up a terminal. Just open this and put in the IP address, and we get in. So I put the IP address of the server here, and we'll go ahead and log in as Philip, I guess, and then input the command. So let's see, Philip, does it say what his password is? Yeah, that's his password. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and press enter. Okay, you can see it's trying to establish the RDP session here, and I'm RDP'd in. So now all I have to do is input his credentials. So let me go ahead and move this a little bit to the side. So it tells us to do thim /Philip. So we're logging into the domain as that user. Okay, put in the password, and then it'll log us into his profile. This will take a second. All right, we're logged in now. Let me open up PowerShell. Okay, got PowerShell open. We'll go ahead and just paste in that command basically. I'll not paste it, I'll type it in. Set. Oh, this PowerShell is way better than the one I was using earlier from the admin account. That one was just not working. Maybe they did that on purpose, I don't know. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if I did any typos. All right, didn't do any typos. Perfect. And what do they want us to set it to? I thought she was supposed to set it to something. All right, whatever. I'll just put in a password. I'll put in password, capital P, A, S, S, W, O. Or actually, let me retype that. So it's gonna capital P, A, S, S, W, 0, R, D. All right. Great, I probably did a typo. So hit the upward arrow on your keyboard if you do a typo like me. I can't type at all. Probably should have used PowerShell ISE. All right, let's see. Let's put in the password again. Capital P, A, S, S, W, 0, R, D. Enter. All right, done. And then they want us to set user ID. So we're going to set it so the next time they log in, they'll have to change their password. Just to let you know, case doesn't matter. This isn't like you're typing in the Linux terminal. If you do an uppercase or lowercase window, will still process the command. So Sophia, all right, enter. All right, great. So next time she logs in, she's gonna have to reset her password. And then of course, I would always say, go ahead and copy these commands over to like your OneNote for future reference in case you ever want to do this in the future. So, but it looks like next we're going to be logging in as Sophia. So I'll go ahead and pause it so I can get started with that. All right, perhaps using my my own computer wasn't too bad because I was able to copy and paste those commands over to this notepad, which I will paste these commands into the description if possible, most likely in the comment section because YouTube blocks special characters from being placed in the description. So I'll probably have to put in the comments. All right, so let's see what we got next here. Next, we're going to be signing in as someone else. So let me go here. Let's sign out. Let's see if it lets me sign out. I don't know if it's gonna let me. Okay, so I just ended the session. So I guess I'll just press enter again. Let's start a new session. All right, great. And then we could just log in as Sophia here. All right, we'll put in the password we gave her. And then it says your user password must be changed. And then we'll click OK. And then we'll put in a new password. And let me kind of expand this. That didn't make the screen too much bigger. Okay. Let's see, new password. So new password will be the same thing except with a 1 after it. So capital P, A, S, S, W, 0, R, D, number 1, and enter. Here, the password match, that match, Oh, okay, so we have to supply the old password and then the new password. Oh, okay, gotcha. It's like my screen was cutting that off, I couldn't see it. Okay, so I put the old password, go down 1, the new password, capital P, A, S, S, W, 0, R, D, 1, tab again to confirm the password, capital P, A, S, S, W, O, 0, R, D, 1, enter. Changing password, the password has been changed, and it's logging me into Sophia's profile. And we're supposed to see a flag, apparently. Oh, it's on our desktop. Okay, so here it is. And then that's the flag. So we'll just copy and paste this. Gosh, I love being able to copy and paste it. I don't even know why I was going to use theirs, because whenever I use TryHackMe's machines, I always have issues with them. Can't copy paste easily. It's a nightmare. That's why I never use them. The process for granting privileges to a user over some OU or other AD objects is called let me think about that one. Delegation. So that's the name of the game. As I mentioned, we gave Philip the ability to delegate password resets, right? So delegation is the answer for that one. All right, cool. Well, let's move on. As always, I always put the flags in my comment section. Other YouTubers will hide their flags. I think that's ridiculous, especially for these beginner level rooms. No need to hide flags. So also other YouTubers I've come across is they'll just be like, all right, figure it out. No, that doesn't fly for me. Not cool. These are beginner level courses, so I'm not gonna be like, yeah, figure it out. There's enough of that when I was in the military. I don't like seeing that. So, all right, task 5, managing computers in AD. By default, all the machines that join a domain, except for the DC, we put in the container called computers. If we check our DC, we'll see that some devices are already there. All right, yeah, so if you click on here, you'll see the computers. We can see some servers, some laptops, and some PCs corresponding to the users in our network. Having all devices there is not the best idea, since it's very likely that you want different policies for your servers and the machines that regular users can use on a daily basis. While there is no golden rule to how you should organize your machines, an excellent starting point is to segregate devices according to their use. In general, you'll expect to see devices divided into at least 3 of the following categories. Workstations. Workstations are one of the most common devices within the Active Directory domain. Each user in the domain will likely be logging into a workstation. This is the device they will use to do their work or normal browsing activities. These devices should never have a privileged user sign into them. Okay, servers. Servers are the second most common devices within an Active Directory domain. Servers are generally used to provide services to users or other servers. Domain controllers. Domain controllers are the third most common devices within your Active Directory domain. Domain controllers allow you to manage the Active Directory domain. These devices are often deemed the most sensitive devices within your network as they contain hash passwords for all user accounts within the network. Since we are tidying up AD, let's create two separate OUs, workstations, and servers. Domain controllers are already in the OU created by Windows. You will be creating them directly under the them local domain controller. In the end, you should have the following OU structures. Okay, so under them, we have users, and then we have workstations and servers, and domain controllers. Okay. So right click here, put a new, and then actually it's going to be organizational unit. Let me just follow the instructions here. Now move the personal computers and laptops to the workstation OU and the servers to the server OU from the computer container. Doing so will allow you to configure policies for each OU later. Okay. After organizing the available computers, how many end up in the workstation OU, it is recommended to create separate OUs for your servers and workstations, yay, nay. So that's obviously going to be yeah. And they want us to create a workstation OU and a server OU. Okay. And we'll create another one. New organizational unit. Servers. All right, I'll create another one. New organizational unit and domain controllers. One thing I love about TryAcme is like it's made me really humble, you know, having a lot of experience in IT and then doing some of these labs and learning new things, and it's a really humbling experience because sometimes you think you know it all and you figure out you actually don't, and there's a lot to learn, and that's one thing I love about this. All right, so domain controllers looks good. I always check my spelling because I always typos. Oh, it's already in use. Oh, okay, good. Wait, what? Yeah, there it is. Hey, okay, cool. So if we go to computers here, yeah, so we got the servers. We'll move those, highlight them, move them over to server one. Yep. All right. PCs, workstations. Yes. And then these are computers. And they want us to move those over to. Yeah. So let's see if that does it. So they want us to move the personal computers and work. Okay. All right, if I did this correctly, then I guess there would be how many end up in the workstation OU? 4. If I didn't, then yeah, I didn't. Okay, so we got to put these in there as well. Yeah. All right, go over here. See, does it do a count? Nope, doesn't. All right. 7. Sweet. Alrighty, so we're done with that. Task 6. So far, we have organized users and computers in OU, just for the sake of it. But the main idea behind this is to be able to deploy different policies for each OU individually. That way we can push different configuration and security baselines to users depending on their department. Windows manages such policies through the group policy objects. GPOs are simply a collection of settings that are applied to OUs. GPOs can contain policies aimed at either users or computers, allowing you to set the baseline on a specific machine or an identity. To configure GPOs, you can use the group policy management tool available from the start menu. All right, cool. So let me, oh, there's a tool here. It's this one right here. Want the little script icon? Yeah, script policy management. First thing you can see when opening it is your complete OU hierarchy as defined before. To configure your policies, you first create a GPO under policy objects and click the link to the GPO where you want the policy to be applied. As an example, you can see there are some already existing GPOs for the machines. Okay, so if you click here, expand your policies, you'll see the group policies that they have here, the default ones. Come on. All right, just move. Okay, there we go. Okay, click here, you'll see these group policies. Okay, cool. GPOs are links to OUs, or linked to OUs. Okay, gotcha. So you have the servers, and these OUs are then linked to the GPOs. Cool. You can see in the image above that 3 GPOs have been created. From those, the default domain policy and RDP policy are linked to the DEM local domains as a whole, and the default domain controller policy is linked to the domain controllers OU only. Something important to have in mind is that any GPO will apply to the linked OU and any sub-OUs under it. For example, the sales OU will still be affected by the default domain policy. Okay, so we have the default domain policy here. You click it, it opens up. And then you have the sales OU. And then you click on that, and you'll see the group policy, which doesn't have one at this time. Okay. But you do have the default ones though. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. As you can see, you can also apply security filters to GPOs so that they are only applied to specific users/computers under an OU. By default, they will be applied to authenticated user groups, which include all users/PCs. Okay. Security filters are right here. The setting GPO can only apply specific groups, users, and computers. Got it. The setting tabs includes the actual content of the GPO and lets us know what specific configurations it applies. Settings. Oh, hold on. Settings. Oh, here we go. Generating the report. Let me log into my virtual machine on the right. Otherwise, I have issues later. There we go. All right. As I stated before, each GPO has a configuration that applies to computers only, and configurations that apply to users only. In this case, default only contains computer configurations. Okay, so it has computer configurations. All right, so we don't see user configurations. If you expand it, you don't see any, you only see computer configuration policies set for the Windows settings, security settings policies. Feel free to explore GPO and expand on the available items using the show links on the right side of each configuration. In this case, the default domain policy indicates really basic configurations that should be applied to most domains, including password and account lockout policies. All right, so if we click on the security settings here, you'll see the account policies, password policies, and such. Since the GPO applies to the whole domain, any changes to it would affect all computers. Let's change the minimum password length policy to require users to have at least 10 characters in their passwords. To do this, right-click GPO and select Edit. All right, so you just right-click here. We're going to edit the group policy objects default policy. All righty, and we're going to update the policy for passwords. So I'm going to say it's going to be under policies, administrative templates. I'll say it's administrative templates. Let's see what it says here. Windows settings. Okay, it's under Windows settings. It's been a while since I've been in AD. I usually don't use it a whole lot anymore. So let's see, Windows settings, Windows settings, and security settings, and password policies. Peer configurations, account policies. Huh, weird. I don't see that. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Of course, I'm in the wrong one. All right, Windows settings. So first policies, software settings, Windows settings. All right, password policies, security settings, password policies. Okay, security settings. Oh, account policies. Okay, account policies and password policies. Yeah, here it is. And what's it having us do? 10 character passwords. Am I still logged in as Sophia? I don't even know if she's going to be able to edit any of this. Administrator. Okay, good. I was going to say. For a second there, I thought I was using my machine. I'm like, wait, I shouldn't be able to do this. All right, right. Password length, it's currently set to 7 characters. They actually tell you exactly where to go. Somehow, still got lost. All right. And what do they want us to send it to? Was that 10 characters? Yeah, 10 characters. Okay. All right. I just click this little toggle. Done. Apply. Okay. As you see, plenty of policies can be established, and a GPO, while explaining every single one of them would be impossible in a single room. Do feel free to explore a bit, as some of the policies are straightforward. If more information on any of the policies is needed, you can double click them and read the explain tab for each one. So if you just click on them, you'll see the explain tab, and then you could read, a minimum default password length is, what they're recommended, 1 to 14 characters and such. All right, GPO distribution. GPOs are distributed to networks via network share called sysvol, which is stored in the DC. All users in the domain should typically have access to the share over the network to sync their GPOs. Periodically, the sysvol share points by default to the Windows sysvol sysvolume directory on each of the domains in our network. Once a change has been made to any GPO, it might take up to 2 hours for computers to catch up. If you want to force any particular computer to sync its GPO immediately, you can always run the following command on the desired computer. Makes sense, yeah. Group GP update force. And then it does take time to apply to the computer. So creating some GPOs for Them Inc. as part of our new job. We have been tasked with implementing some GPOs to allow us block non-IT users from accessing the control panel, make workstation servers lock their screens automatically after 5 minutes of users inactivity to avoid people leaving their sessions exposed. Let's focus on each of them and define what policies should be enabled in each GPO and where they should be linked. Restricted access to control panel. If we wanted to restrict access to control panel across all machines to only the users that are part of the IT department, Users of other departments should not be able to change the system's preferences. Let's create a new GPO, restrict control panel access, and open it for editing. Since we want this GPO to be applied to specific users, you will look under user configurations for the following policy. All right. Restrict users. Okay, so I noticed that they have an auto lockout screen policy there, right there at the top. It's obviously not there by default, so we'll just create a new one. Create GPO in this domain, link here. Let's do that. We'll name this one the same as theirs. I think they said restrict users. I'm just going to use the one they use. Lock screen, because I don't listen. All right. So auto lock screen, click here. Alrighty. And from here, then we're going to go to edit it. All right, we're going to, does it tell you how we're going to do the rest of this? It does. Well, auto lock screens. All right, so I'm going to change it here. Actually, restrict access control panel. Auto lock screens. Actually, we'll just follow their instructions. I don't want to run into this again. All right, don't listen to what I last said. We are going to follow their instructions and just create it right over here, I guess. So create a GPO. I'll just create a GPO here. They want us to name it restrict users access. So I'm just going to copy that. And I don't think it's going to work. I think you have to use. See, does it work? Nope, it doesn't. Okay, I'm going to type it in real quick. All right, restrict user access. All right, we have one here. Whoops, actually. They said they wanted a market management, marketing, and sales. We'll just see if I can put one there. Oh, actually, mistake. Delete that. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. All right, we're not doing it for the IT, of course. And then just looking at their picture here, it's supposed to be under group policies, policy objects. Restrict access, control panel access. Looks like there's one here. And then what they want us to do is then, once GPO configured, we'll need to link all the use corresponding to users who should. All right, so then once we've configured it, then we'll have to paste, basically just drop it over here. So let me go and edit this one. So we'll edit it. And then after we edit it, we'll go to users, configuration. So that we only need to apply it to users, administrative templates, control panel. And then if you click on control panel, then you'll see some of the settings there. And prohibit access to control panel settings. It's set to none right now, so we'll just not configured. We're going to click edit here, and then brings this up, enable that, and then we're going to disable it actually, and then we're going to apply it, and then it should be okay. All right, so according to this policy, they can't access the control panel. All right, let me click out of that, and then we'll just paste this over here into the management, the non IT folks. All right, and they only want us to apply it to management, marketing, sales. All right, so then after we do that, then we'll see another policy here. For the first GPO regarding screen lock for the workstation servers, we could directly apply it over the workstation servers. The controller to use we created previously. While the solution should work, an alternative consists of simply applying the GPO to the root domain, as well as we want the GPO to affect all computers, since the workstation servers and domain controller OUs are all child OUs of the domain root, and they will inherit its policy. You might notice that if our GPO is applied to the root domain, it will also be inherited by other OUs like sales, marketing. Since these OUs contain users, only any computer configuration in our GPO will be ignored by them. Let's create a GPO and call it the AutoLock screen and edit it. The policy to achieve what we want is located in the following root. Okay, that's how we do it. Okay. And this one's going to call AutoLock screen. And then there's one here for AutoLock screen. And I'm just going to edit this one. Edit. And then we're going to go to the policies, computer configurations, policies, Windows settings, security settings. Just move this to the right, give us more room to see. Security options, local policies, security options. And if we click on that, we'll get some of the settings here listed. That over to the right. Interactive screen. Scroll up here, interactive. Lockout threshold, no. Interactive logon machine inactivity limit. And we'll go to properties and we'll define it, set it to 300 seconds. Just like what, 5 minutes. Apply, okay. And then it's all set. Close it out. And then do they want us to drag this over? You'll set the inactivity limit to 5 minutes so that the computer gets locked out automatically. If any user leaves their session open after closing the GPO editor, we will link the GPO to the root domain by dragging to the GPO. Okay, so we're dragging this over here, which we already have one over there. It's not gonna let us do that. Okay, let me right click here. I don't understand. Why didn't they just have us edit this one? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, if I tried dragging it, it didn't work earlier. I don't know. Let me see, does that work? I want it to work. But I don't feel like doing it again. All right, well, I could delete this one. And then I could just paste mine over there. But the thing is, I don't know if that one has more settings. Yeah, see, like mine doesn't have all those settings. Like theirs has more settings. Let's do it. Let's just delete it. I'm gonna mess so many things up here. All right, here we go. I'll take it. Take my policy. This is why they wanted us to create one. I'm just being lazy. All right, let's just create one then. It says I should be able to drag it. Oh, maybe they wanted me to drag that one over here. That would make more sense. Dang it. Is there a back button here? Is there an undo button? No, I just destroyed the domain. Awesome. All right. I'm just going to create a new one. I'm tired of this. All right. So let's create a GPI for the domain. Auto lockout. And this is why you create backups. So in case you have someone who messes up your domain controllers, you can always restore to backup. No, I'm just playing. But that's my name. All right. All right. Well, I decided to just delete this one and then make the one up here. And that seemed to work for me. So delete the one under group policy object and then just put a new one here. And then let's edit it, see if it's good, I guess. Because I'm not a robot, I didn't memorize the path, so I'm going to need to just expand this so I can get to it. Security settings, local, security options. All right. All right. Interactive, machine activity. Properties, define, 300. What happened? Apply. Okay. And I did it. All right, then we're gonna try to, that didn't work. Okay, edit. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Windows settings, policies, settings. By the end of this, I'm gonna remember all the paths. Security settings, local policies, security options. This one's set to 300. Okay, cool. So it looks like it inherited, like it was supposed to, the permissions of the root GPOs. All right, we'll set the activity for once GPOs have been applied to the correct OU, we can log in as any user in either marketing, sales, management, verification. For this task, let's connect via RDP using Mark's credentials. All right, I have my Try Hack Me computer here. Are we logged in as Mark? I think we're logged in as Sophia. We'll sign up. All right, try logging in to Mark. That password there. Cool. So logged in as Mark. Now, if you try opening the control panel, you should get a message indicating that this operation is denied by the administrator. You can wait 5 minutes to check if the screen is automatically locked out. If you wait Since we didn't apply the control panel GPO on IT, you should be able to log on to the machine as any of those users have access to the control panel. If you create and link the GPO, but for some reason they still don't work, remember you can run the GP update force to the GPOs. What is the name of the network share used to distribute the GPOs to the domain controller? All right, and we know that that's going to be sysvol is the name of that. To distribute the GPOs to the computers. Can a GPO be used to apply settings to users and computers? Yay, nay. Yay. All right, and then we'll just check the control panel. I'm not going to wait 5 minutes. I have it basically like OCD, so I can't wait 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, I was able to access it. All right, well, just to, oh, snaps. For some reason, I thought my computer was Windows. Okay, so CMD, IP config/force, which is going to take a minute. What the hell? All right, GP update /force. Why did I do IP config? Oh no, it's been a long day, guys. Give me a break. All right, let's wait for that to finish. Okay. Let's try it now. Hey, I got the control panel open. Okay, what the heck did I do wrong? Was I supposed to put it under, I was probably supposed to put it under those, right? Well, no, I did that though. I did that for the different organizational units. Yeah, shouldn't be happening. Yeah, see the control panel, disable, prohibit use. All right, it's gonna take a while to sync and all. I just blame it on the syncing. We answered the question. They got their answer. All right, authentication method. When using the Windows domain, all credentials are stored in the domain controller. Whenever a user tries to authenticate to a service using domain credentials, the service will need to ask the domain controller to verify if they are correct. Two protocols can be used for network authentication in Windows domains. Kerberos, used by any recent version of Windows. This is default protocol in any recent domain. Net NTLM, legacy authentication protocol, kept for compatibility purposes. Well, Net and TLM should be considered obsolete. Most networks will have both protocols enabled. Let's take a deeper look at how each of these protocols works. Kerberos authentication. Kerberos authentication is the default authentication protocol for any recent version of Windows. Users who log into service using Kerberos will be assigned tickets. Think of tickets as a proof of previous authentication. Users with tickets can present them to the service to demonstrate that they have already authenticated into the network before and are therefore enabled to use it. When Kerberos is used for authentication, the following processes happen. The user sends their username and timestamp encrypted using a key derived from their password to the key distribution center. A service usually installed on the domain controller is in charge of creating Kerberos tickets on the network. The KDC will create and send back a ticket granting ticket, which will allow the user to request additional tickets to access specific services. The need for a ticket to get more tickets may sound a bit weird, but it allows user to request service tickets without passing their credentials every time they want to connect to a service. Along with the TGT, a session key is given to the user, which they will need to generate the following request. Notice the TGT is encrypted using the KRP KRBTGT account password hash, and therefore the user can't access its content. It is essential to know that the encrypted TGT includes a copy of the session key as part of its contents, and the KDC has no need to share the session ticket, as it can recover a copy by decrypting the TGT if necessary. So username timestamp, request TGT, KDC domain controller will pass along the KGT. Okay, so then encrypts the TGT using the KRBTGT hash, and then sends that okay, so it could decrypt the TGT if necessary to get the session key, and then it will send that encrypted when a user wants to connect to a service on the network, like a share, website, or database. They will use their TGT to ask the KDC for a granting ticket. Granting service, okay. Ticket granting service are tickets that allow connections only to specific services they were created for. To request a TGS, the user will send their username and a timestamp encrypted with the session key, along with the TGT and a service principal name, SPN, which indicates the service and server name we intend to access. Okay, so TGT. Along with the TGT and service principal name, got it, and the service we want to access with the username timestamp, got it. As a result, KDC will send a TGT along with the service session key. So then we get that session key so we can use that service, which will need to authenticate to the service we want to access. The TGS is encrypted using a key derived from the service owner's hash. The service owner is the user of the machine account that the service runs under. The TGS contains a copy of the service session key on its encrypted content so that the service owner can access it by decrypting the TGS. Okay, they can access it by decrypting the TGS, got it. The TGS can be sent to the desired service to authenticate and establish a connection. The service will use its configured account password hash to decrypt the TGS and validate the service session keys. Okay, so they send that and they'll gain access to the resource. Net NTLM works using a challenge response mechanism. The entire process as followed. Authentication request, NTLM challenge, NTLM response, challenge response from the server to the main controller, NTLM hash challenge response, allow, deny authentication, allow, deny authentication. Okay. The client sends an authentication request to the server they want to access. The server generates a random number and sends it to the challenge to the client. The client combines their NTLM password hash with the challenge and other known data to generate a response to the challenge and sends it back to the server for verification. The server forwards the challenge and response to the domain controller for verification. The domain controller uses the challenge to recalculate the response and compare it to the original response sent by the client. If they both match, the client is authenticated. Otherwise, access denied. The authentication result is sent back to the server. The server forwards the authentication request to the client. Note that the user's password hash is never transmitted through the network for security. The described process applies using a domain account. If a local account is used, the server can verify the response to the challenge itself without requiring interaction with the domain controller, since it has a password hash stored locally on its SAMs. All right. Will a current version of Windows use NTLM as preferred authentication protocol? By default, yay, nay. I want to say as its default authentication protocol. Let's go with nay. because Kerberos is way more secure. So I don't know why I'd use that. When referring to Kerberos, what type of ticket allows us to request further tickets known as TGTs? So request other tickets known as TGSs, actually. Ticket granting. I probably got that wrong. Let me look up here. Ticket granting ticket. I want to say it's ticket granting ticket. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, so ticket granting ticket. All right. All right. Using net in TLM is a user's password network at any point. No, it isn't. Hashes are transmitted with some known information. Okay, cool. Oh, guys, we're almost done. All right. Task 8, trees, forests, and trusts. So far, we have discussed how to manage a single domain, the role of domain controller, and how it joins computers, servers, and users. Domain, then local. As computers grow, so do the networks. Having a single domain for a company is good enough to start, but in time, some additional needs might push you to have more than one. Trees. Imagine your example that suddenly your company expands to a new country. The new country has different laws and regulations that require you to update your GPO to comply. In addition, you now have IT people in both countries, and each IT team needs to manage resources that corresponds to each country without interfering with the other team. Well, you have created a complex OU structure and used delegation to achieve this. Having a huge AD structure might be hard to manage and prone to human error. Luckily, for us, Active Directory supports integration of multiple domains so that you can partition your network into units that can be managed independently. If you have two domains that share the same namespace, then .local in our example, those domains can be joined in as a tree. Okay. If your them.local domain was split into two subdomains for UK and US branches, you can build a tree with a root domain of them.local and two subdomains called UK them.local and US them.local, each with its own AD, computers, and users. Okay. Got it. So you have your root and then your two subdomains. The partition structure gives us better control over who can access what in the domain. The IT people from the UK will have access to their own DC that manages UK resources. Only, for example, a UK user would not be able to manage US users in that way. The domain administrator of each branch will have complete control over their respective DCs, but not the other branches. DC policies can allow to be configured independently for each domain in the tree. Any security groups needs to be introduced when talking about trees and forests. Enterprise admin group will grant user administrative privileges over all of the enterprise domain. Each domain will still have it. Domain admins with administrative privileges over a single domain, and the enterprise admins who can control everything in the enterprise. Okay, let me just scroll through this, see how much we have more. We almost done. Forest. The domain you manage can also be configured in different namespaces. Suppose your company continues growing and eventually acquires another company called MHT Inc. When both companies merge, you will probably have different domain trees, each company each managed by its own IT department. The union of several trees with different namespaces into the same network is known as a forest. Okay, separate networks, got it. Having multiple domains organized in trees and forests allows you to have a nice compartmentalized network in terms of management and resources. But at some point, a user at the them UK might need to access a share file in one of the MHT agent servers. For this to happen, domain range in trees and forests are joined together by trust relationships. In simple terms, having a trust relationship between a domain allows you to authorize users from the domain them UK to access resources from the domain MHT EU. The simplest trust can be established is a one-way trust relationship and a one-way trust if a domain AAA trusts domain A BBBBB. This means that a user on BBBB can authenticate to access resources on a trust direction and access direction. Direction of a one-way trust relationship is contrary to that of access directions. Two-way trust relationships can be made to allow both domains to mutually authorize users from the other. By default, joining several domains under a tree or forest will form two-way trust relationships. Okay, it is important to note that having a trust relationship between domains doesn't automatically grant access to all resources on the domain. Once a trust relationship is established, you have the chance to authorize users across the different domains, but it is up to you what access is actually authorized or not. What is a group of Windows domains that share the same namespace called? The same namespace, I want to say that's tree. What should be configured between two domains for a user needs text resources and domain B? It's going to be this first one. Want to have a trust relationship, a one-way trust relationship. A trust relationship. Cool. Conclusion. In this stream, we have shown the basic components and concepts related to Active Directory and Windows domains. Keep in mind that this room should only serve as an introduction to the basic concepts, as there are quite a bit more to explore, implement a production-ready Active Directory environment. If you're interested in learning how to secure an Active Directory installation, be sure to check out our Active Directory hardening room to be released soon. If, on the other hand, you would like to know how attackers can take advantage of common AD misconfigurations, other AD hacking techniques, the comprehensive Active Directory module is a way to go. Hey, congrats, we finished it. Woo! All right, guys, we have completed this, and I am happy to announce that this was one of the last rooms I had to complete for the basic, wow, red team, that's new, for the complete beginners course. So if you click on complete beginners course, I can now download my little certificate here. So I finished all these and I really enjoyed it. The reason I did that one last was because there was no exploits, and I was like, this is boring, I'm not doing this. And I decided to go back to it. To be honest with you, I think Active Directory is extremely important. One of my first college classes was Active Directory and Windows servers. It really helps establish fundamentals that I still fall back on to this day. If you haven't watched my lab on how to create a Windows domain using Windows 2016 server and a Windows 10 client and connecting them, I'd recommend that you watch that because that's really great stuff right there. And if you're struggling on some of these rooms, check out my videos. I have a few of them for some of these. And once you get into the, go here. Once you get into the offensive pen testing and junior penetration testing rooms, I have quite a few videos on those, so definitely take a look at them. I'm going to post this in the description of the video. I really enjoyed making this video, and I was going to go through this anyways. Might as well just read it out loud and help you guys along the way, because I know there's some people who may find this a little challenging. So if you have any questions, drop in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. It motivates me to create more content and you support the channel. And thank you for watching this video. Have a good day. Later.